Spiritual progress is discerned by one's ability to focus on wanted thoughts while at the same time ignoring unwanted thoughts. Quasi here, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you how you can control your mind. And now most people think that controlling your mind literally means just focus on the positive thoughts, but that's just the tiniest part of it. The big part of it is how you can unattach from those unwanted thoughts, the negative thoughts. So after having worked with over 500, 600 clients in our program, I've learned to see this common pattern that every single client goes through. And once we break this pattern, they are more easily focusing on positive thoughts and the thoughts that they want. And subsequently, the realities are turning out in the way that they would want it to. So please stick around to the very end of this video, because I want to share with you a couple of tools that I think will be very, very valuable for you. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce that I made a brand new bootcamp for you. If you just scroll down to the pinned comments down below, you'll be able to access that, as well as our exclusive email list where I can share stuff with you that I can't really share on the channel because of YouTube's limitations. So without further delay, let's go right ahead and get started. So the topic of today's video is learning how to control your mind. Now, recently I heard this quote by this spiritual teacher. I can't remember what his name is, but essentially the quote goes like this: spiritual progress is discerned by one's ability to focus on wanted thoughts while at the same time ignoring unwanted thoughts. I want you to ponder on that for a minute. How well you're able to focus on the thoughts that you want to focus on and ignore thoughts that don't serve you is how much you've progressed on the spiritual journey. So a lot of us have a lot of difficulty with this because most people think that focusing on positive thoughts means brute forcing it and just ignoring and just pushing aside the negative thoughts. So in that sense, we don't quite understand what ignoring negative thoughts really means. Okay, so if I were to exemplify this, let's say you have this mind. Got to get a better pen for this. So to better exemplify this, let's say you have this mind, this empty circle. And within this empty circle, you get some positive thoughts. And unfortunately, in this mind, you get some negative thoughts. Negative, 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 right? What most people do very well is most of their focus goes on the negative thoughts, right? So what they do is they try to get rid of the negative thoughts more than they focus on the positive thoughts. Now, to give an example of this, let's look at business owners, right? Me and my journey to growing a business, I would always focus on the negative. I remember I set this goal one month of reaching 20K a month, my first ever 20K month in my business. And I dreamt about this goal for a very long time. And that month, I didn't actually end up hitting 20K. I actually hit 18K. And when I didn't hit 20K, and I was so close to hitting 20K, instead of looking at the 18K that I did hit and becoming grateful for it, what I did was I looked at the 3 clients that didn't close that maybe would have gotten me to 25, 30K. And I was like, oh man, these clients didn't close. I almost hit 20K, but I didn't. So instead of focusing on the good things that have happened, more of my attention was going to the things that didn't happen, okay, the things that I wanted. And so the following month, the trauma of not getting the 3 clients hit me again. Instead of focusing on, okay, well, it's a brand new month, I can focus again. Instead of starting off afresh, I was looking at, oh man, what if this happens again? What if I don't close those 3 deals because, I don't do well on the sales call, etc. So this starts to color my perception. And in this way, I know that I've got to get rid of these negative thoughts and focus on what I do want, but I can't do that because the identification with this and that outcome is too strong. So I want you to think about it this way. You right now have an identification to a goal. When you're identified to a goal, you know what you want to move towards, but usually it begins with a resistance on what you want to move away from. So if I draw this scale right here, You want to move towards the positive and get away from the negative, right? So it begins here. You look in the mirror, you don't like the way you look, and you're like, well, I don't like the way I look, I'm going to go to the gym. Or you look at your bank account, you're like, I don't like how empty it is, I'm going to start making money, right? So the biggest problem is most people keep drumming up on this resistance. And when you keep drumming up on this resistance, you move towards it. We just get target fixation. So reality doesn't care about the nature of your focus, it cares about the content of your focus. It cares about what you focus on. You focus on the negative and what you want to avoid, it'll help you move towards the negative and what you want to avoid. So for people who keep looking in the mirror and keep seeing insecurities, life gives them more things to be insecure about. When they look at their bank account and they're insecure, life gives them more bills and more, money that's just goes away somehow and they can't keep it. More things to be insecure about, right? So this is the power in keeping the right content in this empty circle. And this is why spiritual progress is denoted by the ability to focus on wanted while at the same time ignoring unwanted, right? Now, here's what happens. So that month, here's what happened to me when I tried to focus on the positive thoughts. And this is what happens to most people. When they have a negative thought and they learn about personal development, they start to think that, okay, well, now I know that I've got to focus on positive thoughts. I cannot have negative thoughts. I must not give myself any permission to have any negative thought. So guess what happens when you do that? Now, let's say you have a negative thought, right? And then you're like, oh shit, having a negative thought is bad. And then you have a negative thought about the negative thought. And you're like, oh no, I keep thinking negative. If I keep thinking negative, I'm never going to get the intended outcome that I want. So this one negative thought has now compounded to the power of 3. And it's become exponentially worse. Do you see that happening? Do you see sometimes in your life where you're like, well, I know I've got to have positive thoughts, but damn it, for some reason I can't have this positive thoughts. For some reason I can't be my ideal self right now. This is bad, 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 bad. And then you color and you label that event as bad. Instead of just ignoring it, you start to get engaged with it more and more. And all of your attention goes here rather than focusing on that positive. So this is how the negative can easily compound and start to dictate your life. It becomes a whole feedback loop, right? If you watch the last video, I'll put it up here or in the comments below on the mirror cycle, on how the mirror of life starts to shape your reality by the way you respond to events, you'll know by now that having a compounded negative effect will start to, with a delay, manifest later on in your life. And this is what happened to me. I started that month. I was like, oh man, what if I don't close this? Oh, I shouldn't have these negative thoughts. I should focus. I should be more positive on that sales call and then I'll close. So it becomes infinitely difficult to do that. So the question becomes, how do you break free from this? How do you break free from that cycle? And this is a phenomenon or a technique I like to call accept and redirect. Okay? I'm going to write it down here. A and D. Accept and redirect. Okay? What this means is we begin with accepting everything as it is. So please take a moment to think about just your life and all the events that happen outside and all the thoughts that happen inside. When a bad event happens, if you react negatively to it, more bad events will happen. If a bad event happens and you react positively to it, then you'll shift onto a corresponding frequency where more good things happen. When this bad thing becomes a good thing, you've essentially redirected, it's actually A and R. You've just essentially redirected that bad thing that was perceived to be bad initially, and you've made it a good thing, right? So there are different life paths an event can lead to. So there is the positive life path, where this event happens and you put a positive meaning onto it, so you go to more positive things, or a neutral one where things just happen and you just follow it like a puppet on a string, and there's the negative one, where more unfavorable, undesirable things happen. And this is all dictated by the frequency, by what you focus on and your attitude. Okay? So what accept and redirect does, and this is the biggest key, is that when you have those negative thoughts, instead of trying to resist and suppress it and ignore it. So this is what people do when they try to ignore it. They're like, oh, no, just sweep it under the rug. Sweep this negative thought about your income. Sweep this bad thing that could happen in the future under the rug and just continue on. Just suck it up and continue on. When you do that, it starts to gain more energy, right? You actually unconsciously give it more energy when it comes back stronger. So have you ever had it that you've suppressed something for so long, one day you just have this outburst at nothing? You know, maybe you're stuck in traffic and it makes no sense to have an outburst, but you just have an angry outburst and you couldn't control it whatsoever. That's something that's built up this pressure over time because you've kept pushing it down more and more. You've kept suppressing it more and more. And this is how traumas build up because they haven't been processed correctly. I'm going to include a video where I made on the surrender process and how to properly deal with your feelings and your emotions instead of suppressing and then repressing it or expressing it. Even that doesn't work. Okay, so that'll be in the pinned comments below. But essentially what we do instead now is we accept whatever it is that's happening outside. We first accept whatever it is that is happening even inside. So step one is to accept. And by accepting, I don't mean that you say, oh, you know, this is just my fate. This is just my lot in life. You know, this is just all I'm worth. So I'm just going to accept it. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, acknowledge its right to exist. And that's the key point. Whatever is happening, positive or negative, acknowledge its right to exist. For when you reject it, you reject life itself. Please take a moment to think about this. When you reject anything that's happening outside or inside, you're rejecting life itself because this too is a part of life. Okay? All of the bad things that are happening, all of the good things that are happening, these too are parts of life. So when we accept them, we gain the power to redirect them into what we choose for the future. So you can't change this present moment because this present moment is continually becoming past. This present moment has already been dictated by your actions in the past. And this can be action in the form of thought, this can be action in the form of feeling, energy, or even physical action, right? So all of those things, the choices and the decisions that you made in the past is what you are living right now. Where you are at in your life right now is a consequence, okay? And the decisions, the choices, the actions that you take right now in this moment color the next moment. It all manifests with a delay, right? If I work on my business today, it'll give me compounded rewards tomorrow, a year later, 10 years later. The meditation, the visualization, all of the personal development work I'm doing today, I'm going to reap the rewards of it tomorrow. And that's the essence of time and this reality. So we begin with accepting or acknowledging its right to exist. When we do that, we release the energy that we've initially been attributing to all of those negative thoughts and negative feelings. This is a very crucial part, okay? So the next time a negative thought comes up, we cut it off at that first step, right? So at this first step, we say, oh, look, this is an unwanted thought. It too is being acknowledged, and it too has its right to exist. When you simply acknowledge it like that, you're not giving it all of your energy. It's kind of like noticing a cloud and noticing it neutrally and letting it pass instead of getting all tangled up in it. But what we do is we take these thoughts so personally. You know, they're so personal to us. They're like, oh, why did I think that? I shouldn't have thought that. That was a bad thought to think. Now this bad thought is going to become my reality. But when you have that attitude to that bad thought, it becomes even more bad. So that's what the biggest problem is. So accepting it solves this. Now what we do with the second part is we redirect it. And we can only redirect properly and choose what we want when we're in a state of neutrality. So this is also the biggest problem people make when they're going through tough circumstances in their lives. They start muttering affirmations. You can tell yourself you're wealthy, you're rich, you're confident, all you want. But if you don't truly believe it, it's not going to work. Right? You can just keep muttering things to yourself all you want. But you'll only start to believe it when you're in a place of receptivity. So please think about that for a second. When you're only open to receiving, you can receive. Not when you're closed off. Life could be giving you a lot of things, but if you're closed off, you're never going to receive it. I think my wife told me a story about this last night. I think this one's from the Bible, but I'm not too sure. There was this man who was hoping and praying for help from God. He was going through tough circumstances, and God was sending people to him. There was this one person who offered him money, or one person that offered him assistance, but he rejected all of that help. He was like, no, I'm waiting for God to help me. And finally, one day he dies, and he goes and speaks with God. And I think my wife's actually listening to this right now. But one day he talks to God, and he's like, God, why didn't you send me any help? What happened? And God's like, well, I sent you all the help. I sent you this person and that person. So we don't see all of these blessings in disguise that come our way, because we think our minds get attached to one way of getting it. But we don't see what disguises these blessings take. Okay, so I forgot the point I was trying to make, but this is how redirecting works. You go to this neutral place first, and only if you're neutral and open to receiving, like that man should have been, can you receive. And this is why affirmations or all of those techniques that you do work best when you're in a place of neutrality, when you don't have any attachments or expectations to any outcome, when you've become empty within. And you become empty within by accepting, right? But if you're in a place of frustration and you're like, okay, well, visualize the good outcome. Oh, is it happening? Oh man, I don't care. This doesn't work anymore. That previous negativity will start to color this, okay? So with that, I conclude this video. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to do a quick recap of what we talked about today. Today, we talked about how to control your mind. And the biggest thing that's going to make the biggest difference for you, and the biggest mistake most people make when it comes to controlling your mind. For when we start to think about words such as control, the connotations are you resist this and you force that and you shove everything in until it works. But unfortunately, that's not how it works when it comes to the mind. Because when you resist something in the mind, it multiplies itself. It just keeps multiplying. So we've done a demonstration of what happens when we have positive thoughts and negative thoughts, and why these negative thoughts have more of a hold on us than the positive ones. And I also revealed to you a quote that I think is very accurate in denoting spiritual progress, which is essentially that spiritual progress is denoted by one's ability to ignore unwanted thoughts while at the same time focusing on wanted thoughts, right? And the biggest mistake people make is when they have these negative thoughts, most of their attention goes to battling the negative thoughts instead of just simply changing the channel. They start to interfere and wave about in this current channel that's undesirable than just simply changing it. So they look at the negative thought, and then they become negative about the negative thought, and they get even more negative about the negativity towards the negative thought. So then this becomes a compounded effect. This resistance, this suppression, it starts to compound and multiply itself in the mind. And we talked about the solution to this, which is accepting and redirecting, A and R, okay? And step one is accepting. And why do we accept? And what does accepting mean? The common misconception about accepting means you just become, submissive, and you just, let life walk you over and let other people walk over you. But that's not true. What accepting means is allowing things to exist the way they are, while at the same time choosing what is wanted instead, which brings me to that second step. Okay. Step one, accept, acknowledge its right to exist. Okay. Step two, when you're in that place of neutrality, then you choose what is wanted instead. Then you focus on what is wanted instead. Then you visualize. Then you do your affirmations. Because you've got to be in this neutral state to be open to receiving anything, right? So with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this, if this was helpful, if you like this style of video, if you could see the board. I tried my best to shift around so there wasn't that glare from the sunlight, but although I think it's making my face dark from one side. But I do hope this was valuable for you. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, if you'd like to work closer together with me and my team in the Reality Mastery Program, where I've personally seen hundreds and hundreds of transformations, our clients achieving some crazy stuff, you can click the link in the description below to apply. Now, this isn't for everyone. We typically only work with business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are creatives, people who want to go their own path in life and not be subject to some external someone else's plan for their lives. And typically these people are stuck at 5 to 10K a month in their businesses and their endeavors, and they want to scale up, they want to make more money, they want to achieve more freedom, but not while selling their soul. But they see that the biggest problem is their mind, okay? They've been stuck because of themselves, not because of some tactical or strategical problem, okay? If that sounds like you, please click on the link below to apply, and let's see if we can help you out. And also a free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is also in the description. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Peace.